A few examples of dividend-paying funds are SCHD, VYM, I'm personally invested in both of these, and NOBL. But look at how this works. With SCHD, this is an ETF created by Charles Schwab. VYM is an ETF created by Vanguard. An ETF is a fund. It's an exchange-traded fund, but all it is, it's a basket of stocks. And these two funds are investing in high dividend-paying companies inside of the United States. So now instead of investing in one stock, you can invest in one fund, which gives you exposure to dozens or hundreds and sometimes thousands of stocks. In this case, we're talking about dividend-paying stocks, particularly if your goal is cash flow. So now, instead of trying to find the perfect company, you find a fund that you want to invest in. That way now, if one company goes bankrupt, it's balanced out by all the other winners that are in the fund. Now you don't have to worry about trying to manage the company, trying to find the perfect company and keep up with the company. See, it's a very different game. Or you can start to get a little bit more niche. For example, NOBL invests in S&P 500 dividend aristocrats, which means it invests in S&P 500 companies, which are the 500 largest companies in the stock market. But then it adds a qualifier, S&P 500 dividends, meaning dividend-paying companies in the S&P 500. So you're one of the 500 largest companies that is paying a dividend, but then it says one more thing, dividend aristocrats. A dividend aristocrat is a company that has paid out and increased their dividend every year for at least the last 25 years. That's the companies that this is investing in. So if you want to invest in those more security, those more safe, those more proven dividend-paying companies that have been around for a long time and pay dividends and increase their dividends every year for a long time, this can give you exposure to that. Then we have number 5, lending your money out. And for full transparency, I don't have a ton of experience here. Most of my experience in lending has to do with selling a real estate property on a land contract, meaning extending a note, a loan, to somebody buying one of my properties. But the way lending works is your broke cousin Bunty or somebody a little bit more financially sophisticated wants to buy something, but they don't have the money to buy it. You can lend them the money and in exchange they pay you interest, so you essentially become the bank, but you can't say that because that runs into a lot of regulatory issues. Now here's the key. The key is not to lend your money to your broke cousin Bunty who wants to go out and buy some Gucci. The goal is to lend your money to somebody sophisticated who wants to buy, say, a rental property or a real estate flip. You pay them some money and then they pay you interest and you have collateral on that property. There are plenty of platforms on the internet that allow you to do this type of peer-to-peer lending. Go out and try them. Just go to Google, search peer-to-peer lending. You'll see a bunch of different options out there, and then you can see what types of interest rates that you get. In general, the higher the interest rate that you get, the higher the potential risk, meaning the higher risk that the person doesn't pay you. But there's a lot of people that have built their entire business around just lending money out and getting interest back. This brings us to number 6 and 7, which I'm going to call pseudo-passive income because it requires you to go out and build an asset first that can pay you for the rest of your life. Let me explain, starting with number 6, royalties. This is where you work to create some content that can pay you for weeks, months, and even years into the future. The most popular example of this is writing a book, and then you can sell this book around the world forever. But I've never written a book before, so I don't have any first-hand experience, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about it, but you get the idea. If you write a book and it gets published, you can get paid for somebody reading that book and buying that book on the other end of the world 3 years from now. But I want to talk about YouTube and podcasts because this is very similar, where you can work to create content one time. Like I can work to make this video today, and if it generates views 3 years from now, it will continue to put some money into my pocket. The tricky part with this type of content is it takes a lot of views before you actually make any significant money. Like my channel here, Minority Minds, that makes something like a penny per view, around that. So unless you're making thousands or hundreds of thousands of views, it doesn't really add up very fast. But if you can work to create better content and you can work to get better views, now that royalty starts to kick in because you can make videos today while the videos that you made 2 years ago continue to drive views for you. And now it's starting to get even more interesting in this economy today because there are so many new media platforms that are popping up. And I'm just going to tell you from personal experience that companies will now pay you for this content. They'll take your YouTube content, they'll take your podcast content that already exists, and then they'll go want to put it on their new platforms, their competitors to YouTube or these other streaming and content platforms, and they'll either pay you a flat fee for the content you created 6 months or 2 years ago, or they'll pay you some sort of other royalty or revenue share, and you don't have to go out and create any new content. That content that you made years ago is now making those views, those pennies on YouTube today, but it's also then being licensed onto other people's platforms where they're also working to pay you as well. So if you can create valuable content that people want, you can create multiple streams of income out of that content, but the difficult part is creating the content that people actually want. It is hard. It took me about 1.5 years before I got my first YouTube check. I didn't make YouTube videos with the intention of making money. I did this as a hobby because I really wish somebody would have told me this financial education stuff when I was getting started. I graduated law school. I didn't have to work as an attorney because I saw the other side and I was deep in real estate investing and I was working on some other business. So YouTube was really just a hobby as a way for me to talk about the things that I wish somebody would have told me, and kind of like a vent because I was frustrated by the system. About 1.5 years into me making YouTube videos, I got my first YouTube check. It was a little bit under $500, and I'm a licensed attorney. So yes, I could have made way more money not making YouTube videos, but now my YouTube channel makes me a whole lot more money, which did not happen overnight. It took years before we started to make any decent income, and by decent income, I mean $1,000. It took years to make $1,000 off of YouTube. Fast forward to now, if my YouTube channel made $1,000 in a day, we would be wondering what broke. And the pseudo option number 7 that we have here is content licensing. This is sort of similar to creating these royalties, but instead of creating a book or this type of content yourself, you're capturing content by taking pictures and then licensing out to some of those platforms on the internet, or you're working to create music that people can then license from you. Again, more niche, more work, but if you're willing to stick with it and it's something that you're actually passionate about, after a while, you might be able to create a whole new stream of steady income from the content that you've already worked to capture or create. And the whole thing about this pseudo passive income, is it takes a whole lot of work in the beginning with no returns, no results, and just no money. But if you stick with it and you get past that hump, well, now you can start making money from all of the old content and the new content. But you gotta be willing to put in all that initial work to get started. If you enjoyed this clip and you wanna continue your financial education journey, I have another video that I think you'll love. All you gotta do is click that button right over there. And for those of you who wanna stay up to date on the top finance and business news, you can join Market Briefs, my free financial newsletter, by clicking that button below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.